Welcome Animal Crossing fans, I'm Ian Higton and this is my surveillance room. From here I can keep an eye on everything that's going on in Swindon, and believe me, I need to. A lot of scary things happen here, and these scary things tend to attract some rather unsavoury characters. And no, I'm not just talking about the gang of kids that live in the haunted forest behind the oasis. I'm also talking about the world's most unpopular villagers. You see, twice a month, visitors to animalcrossingportal.com vote for their most favourite villagers in New Horizons, and every 2 weeks, the results for these polls are posted in a popularity list. Obviously, those at the top of the list are super sought after, and they can command some big bucks on the AC black market. But the ones who lurk at the bottom, well, it's safe to say you'll probably need to pay other people to take those villagers off your hands, because these villagers are the ones that everyone wants to avoid. So, do you have an Animal Crossing abomination ambling around your abode? Is there a vile villager that you need to vanquish in order to make your island venerated? Let's find out as I explore the top 10 least popular villages in Animal Crossing New Horizons for the month of July, starting this week with number 10. Bitty the Hippo is back for her second appearance on a least popular villagers list this month, but it's not all bad news for this snooty snouter. In June's chart, Bitty was submerged in 4th place, and while she's gained a few more popularity votes this month, she's just missed out on leaving the charts and is now wallowing in 10th position. If you didn't already know, this hated hippo is loosely inspired by Betty Boop, the cartoon character from the 1930s who was a caricature of a jazz-age flapper. Unlike the black and white Betty Boop though, Bitty Poop here is bursting with colour, and she complements her bright pink hide with purple eyeshadow and 3 small eyelashes on each eye. Because Bitty is a snooty villager, she also has a big love of fashion, and you can see that mirrored in the look of her home, which is set out to look like a tailor shop. This shunned seamstress has a variety of dressmaking tools at her disposal, including mannequins, an ironing board, 2 different sewing machines, and even a changing room, so you know she means business. So, will Bitty's rise in popularity mean she can finally escape the bottom 10 next month? Who knows? But what I do know is that if people keep giving her the cold shoulder like this, she's going to get hypothermia. Say hello to Sandy the Ostrich, who is making her very first appearance on the least popular villagers list this month. But why is this big orange bird being ostrich-sized by the Animal Crossing community, you might be wondering? Well, the answer, in my opinion at least, is not that clear. You see, as a normal villager type, Sandy's going to get on with most of your island's residents, so a personality clash can't be what's exasperating people. Nor could it be her character design, which is closely based on how a real-life ostrich looks. You see, normally, villagers that accurately represent the animals they are inspired by tend to be a lot more popular, like, say, Bo or Fauna, for instance. Would it be ostrich of the imagination, then, to say that maybe Sandy's just a little bit too bland to make an impression, and that's why she's been ignored by the masses? Normally, with inoffensive traits like these, she'd at least be neck and neck with some of the more flamboyant birds like Flora or Phoebe, but instead of being fine and sandy, it seems like any potential fans of hers are burying their heads in the sand. All things considered, perhaps Sandy isn't as bad as her appearance on this list makes out. Maybe, rather than being a bad egg, she just needs a little bit more promotion. That way, perhaps people will finally want to get next to her. There's another newcomer in this month's chart of Shart, and she's straight out of the gate at number 8. So let's try and find out why players find Velma the Goat so underwhelming. For a start, it could be Velma's personality type, which is snooty. That means she'll appear rude and arrogant when players first meet her, and as a goat character, that probably means she'll keep butting in when you're trying to talk to your favourite dreamies. There's goat to be more to it than that though, and I think it comes down to Velma's appearance, as she looks like quite the bookworm. If the reading glasses, ruler straight fringe and freckles don't paint her as a bit of a goat nerder, what about her custom house, which resembles a stuffy study area or a lonesome library? People tend to find the cuter, sillier animals way more desirable in this game, and while Velma looks like she'd come first place in an IQ competition, I bet if you asked her to do something fun, she'd look at you like you were kidding. Velma's highly intelligent persona combined with her distinctive look makes it pretty clear that her name was inspired by Velma Dinkley from Scooby-Doo. Both characters seem similarly studious, and that makes me wonder whether or not this Velma can drive, because if she can, maybe she travels around New Horizons in the Mystery Machine. As you can tell from her high-end home interior, Gigi the Frog is quite the classy lady. However, even with this love for all things expensive, she still can't afford a loyal fan base. I reckon she was hopping to be more popular this month, but at number 7 on this list, she's one position less popular than she was before, so it's obvious she's not all she's croaked up to be. This elegant amphibian may dress to impress with her beaded tank and her posh white gloves, but unfortunately these don't seem to go too well with her bizarre colour scheme. Gigi's purple colouring clashes quite badly with her blonde hair and garish green eyeshadow, and this makes her rather hard to look at. Combine that with those sinister, sparkly eyes and her odd human lips, which are frozen in a perpetual pucker, and you can see why she struggles to spawn new admirers. Seriously, if this frightful frog sends you a letter asking to move on to your island, you better rib it up as soon as you can, because there's absolutely no way Gigi is ever going to tadpole higher on this list than where she is now. It's happy days for Harry the Hippo because, despite having a face like an armpit, he's actually slightly more popular this month than he was last month. But only by 2 places, mind, so he's still dangerously close to the hippopotamus of this list. As a grumpy personality type, Harry is as unattractive on the inside as he is on the outside, and this less than perfect presentation is probably why most players want to avoid him. Real-life hippos generally have very little hair on their bodies, so perhaps this disconnect from reality is why Harry is so hard to look at. His features are just kind of unnatural. It's not just his unkempt beard that's full of foolish follicles though, his eyebrows are also unnecessarily bushy, and this all comes together with his sickly greenish-yellow colouring to create a rather unsettling image overall. As you can see here, Harry's default outfit is a camo tee, but unfortunately for him there's no blending in with a vomit-inducing visage like that. He's hoping he can clean himself up a bit when he's finally unpacked his custom bathhouse-inspired home here, because unless he has a shower and a shave sometime soon, I fear the only way Harry will ever earn any fans at all is by hypnotising them. Straight in at number 5 on this pigsty of a list is Curly, and I'd be telling porkies if I said that this fact was baking anyone's heart. This hard-to-love hog has a really weird vibe about him, and I think that might be because the designer of his character model made a right pig's ear of his facial expressions. As you can see, Curly's default look is a creepy blank stare, and his little piggy eyes look right through you like he's some kind of Victorian ghost that stood at the foot of your bed. Honestly, if I was penned in with him somewhere, I'd need to get out of there chop chop, because the thought of him silently staring at me like that for any longer makes me squeal. As a jock villager, Curly will often try to get you to do some exercises with him, and that, in theory, is fine. But do make sure you warm up first, because you wouldn't want to pull a hamstring after all. Honestly, it really is no wonder at all why people call Tier 6 villagers like Curly here giveaways. If you think about it, no one in their right mind would want to hog this chap, and I don't know about you, but I'd feel absolutely disgruntled if I'd made the rasher decision to invite him onto my island. There's no way at all that this next new entry will set your mind at cheese, because Limburger here is a real monster. He basically looks like he's fallen straight out of an episode of Shameless and into Animal Crossing, by the way of bargain booze, and I cannot bear to think of what he'd smell like in real life. His creepy 5 o'clock shadow and flushed red cheeks make it look like Limburger has been drowning his sorrows on a bench ever since the local park opened at 10 a.m, and you can just imagine him sat there on his own, tanning a few cans of special brew whilst chaining a pack of B&H Super Kings. I mean, come on, he's even got the voice of someone who burns through at least 40 a day. With a cranky personality type, you can be assured that he's not going to be cheesy going either, so you better believe you'll be feta up with him in no time. While I do think Limburger would fit in rather well in Swindon, the more I look at him, the less fondue I become, and I can totally see why most of you have made him your arch nemesis. In fact, I'll be cheddar off moving on to the next entry right away, because if I have to look at Limburger for any longer, I'll probably have to gouge my eyes out. This next character's name supposedly comes from Queensland, a state in Australia where emus come from. But this amusing fact still hasn't convinced AC fans to treat Queenie here like royalty. This gigantic purple chicken is a snooty personality type, and that means whenever she's not speaking to someone, her vacant expression makes it look like she's extremely clocked off. Perhaps it's this weird emu phase that's driving her fans away. It's probably the only real explanation as to why she's appeared from out of nowhere and is now nesting in third position at the bottom of this pecking order. With such a paltry amount of positive traits, Queenie's only real skill is to make you feel under the feather when you look at her, and to be honest with you, I don't know how I'll cope if I have to speak to her any longer. If you end up getting Queenie on your island, you might want to think about abdicating your role as mayor as soon as possible, because chances are her appearance will cause you to make the saddest of sad face emojis. The final new entry to this list of woeful wonders puts the Ike in yikes, as this super sullen bear huffs his way straight into number 2. Ike's default expression is a dejected, disenchanted frown, and this, combined with the fact that his signature home is basically one big storage locker, makes him seem like a sad, divorced dad who's been kicked out of his house and now needs to live in a shed. Everything about Ike is just so darn depressing, and because of this, I almost can't bear to look at him. From his down-in-the-dumps disposition through to the sad AF camping bed that he hibernates on in the corner of his den of defeat, there's not a single whiff of happiness about any part of his grisly existence. It makes sense then that Ike is a cranky personality type. With the world against him and only his thoughts and his tools to keep him company as he wallows in isolation and self-pity, there's no way Ike could ever be anything but an unbelievably grumpy character. Just looking at him positively drains the joy from my soul, and while a lot of Swindon's natives have exactly the same energy as Ike, he is too much of a bar loser even for me. And finally, the least popular villager in Animal Crossing New Horizons for July 2020 is Rizzo. Yep, this month's least popular villager according to AnimalCrossingPortal.com's popularity list is a real muppet and an absolute rotter of a rat. The first time I laid eyes on Rizzo, I thought he was wearing a pair of pants on his head, and I expect this uncomfortable first impression goes a long way towards explaining why this creepy crook now holds the #1 position as the lowest of the low. His unique look is actually inspired by Nezumi Kozo, aka the Rat Kid, who is a well-known thief and Japanese folk hero that is often compared to Robin Hood. This image of a retro reprobate is reinforced even further by the interior of Rizzo's custom home, which is based on a traditional old-school Japanese street, complete with its very own wanted poster, something that is obviously meant to signal that Rizzo is a right roguish rodent. Having a full-blown criminal mastermind on your island is going to be incredibly annoying for most people, and while he does have quite an imaginative character design and a rather cool, unique custom house, this dirty rat exudes an untrustworthy vibe that really rattles people's cages. That's why this month most players have said "rats all, folks" when it's been suggested that Rizzo moves onto their islands. Oh, hello there. Sorry, you just caught me hanging out in my poo room. How awkward. Anyway, those were the current 10 least popular villagers in Animal Crossing New Horizons for the month of July, according to AnimalCrossingPortal.com. But perhaps after spotting one of your dreamies in there, you strongly disagree. Let us know which entries you think are errors and which villagers deserve to be vilified in the comments below. That way we can have a nice, big, friendly discussion about it all. And while you're doing that, please do give this video a like if you enjoyed it and subscribe to Eurogamer for more Animal Crossing videos and much, much more coming soon. Oh, and if you're in the mood for more trashy puns and more awesome animals, you can find more of my New Horizons list features on screen to click on right now. Goodbye and good luck dodging those tier 6s. Alrighty, time to clean up my poo room. Honestly, I don't know where all this poop is coming from. It wasn't me. I mean, it wasn't all me. Maybe 50% of it was, I guess. I have been eating a lot of fibre.